In this video, I'm gonna show you guys how to wet sand a scratch out of car clear coat and paint like a professional detailer by hand. Now let's get straight into it. What's up everybody? My name is Luke Wilson and welcome to the Wilson Auto Detailing YouTube channel. Now if you're a professional detailer who wants to become more successful in your business or just a car enthusiast who wants to even better your detailing ability, then definitely consider hitting that red subscribe button down below this video. So I'm on location right now detailing this Hyundai Sonata and I want to show you guys this scratch that's actually on the top of kind of the trunk of the car and a bug etching that's right next to it. Now of course we're talking about wet sanding, and the issue is that the scratch and the bug etching that I'm dealing with right now cannot be removed with only polishing. And I want to talk about, before I get into this, why that is. So polishing, as kind of a general rule, is just going to take care of top clear coat surface issues. So you're looking at fine swirls, maybe mild oxidation, fine scratches, things like that. Some deep cutting polish or some more abrasive polishes are going to take care of those top coat issues. But if you look at this diagram right here, you're going to see that a scratch is actually something that is beneath the clear coat. It almost looks like a valley. And what happens is the scratch actually pulls off a certain layer of the clear coat, and in order to actually remove that scratch, what has to be done is the surrounding clear coat has to be removed or taken down or sanded to the bottommost part of that valley or of that scratch, and then you have to polish those sanding marks away to restore the glossy look of the clear coat and of the paint, and that's actually how you do scratch removal through wet sanding. Now, the danger in wet sanding is probably pretty obvious in that clear coat is the very thing that protects the car paint from UV rays, from the elements, and from the outside world. So if you're removing scratches by removing a certain layer of the clear coat, well then wherever you wet sanded on the car, you're actually removing part of the protection that's put on that part of the car. And so if you're a professional auto detailer, it's very important to communicate that with your customer, because that specific area of the car, depending on how much you wet sand and how much clear coat you remove, is going to determine how much more vulnerable that part of the car is to fading or UV rays or kind of just being ruined. So for this video, we're looking at this area right here. You can see right here is a scratch, right here is a bug etching, and then right here is another scratch. And it's a little bit difficult to pick up in the camera exactly, but you can see this part and you can see these scratches pretty well. In order to even, first of all, determine if a scratch actually needs to be wet sanded, you need to determine if it is actually beneath the clear coat. And the very simple way that I do that is I just run my fingernail kind of across the scratch and I see if I can catch an edge. And if I can catch an edge, then that means that it is in fact below the clear coat. Now when you do that and you determine that it actually is beneath the clear coat and therefore must be wet sanded to be fully corrected, you also need to figure out, is the entire scratch beneath the clear coat? And what I mean by that is that there might be deeper parts of the scratch at the beginning or in the middle or at the end. So I go across the entire scratch seeing if I can catch an edge on the entire thing or if I can only catch an edge in maybe in the middle. It tends to be more in the middle that you're gonna get those deeper parts, and on the edges it might just be more of a top coat, top surface issue. So first of all, I'm going to be using a very high grade sandpaper. So this is 2000 grit. There's only so much clear coat that's on a car, and so I'm not trying to remove a bunch of this clear coat. I just want to remove just enough to perfect this scratch. And if the scratch was actually deeper than this one, which this one is actually very, very, just kind of more surface, though it is beneath the clear coat, this one's not going to take very much wet sanding to remove, but sometimes I communicate with my customers and say, hey, this scratch is too deep to be removed and it's not going to be perfected completely. Now, what I'm going to do is, because it's wet sanding, I'm gonna have to have some sort of like lubrication in order to actually take my sandpaper and move it across the clear coat. So once again, this is 2000 grit, so it's extremely, extremely high grit. It's not going to be really biting into the paint at this huge level. But what I'm gonna use for this is just a simple solution of my Optimum No Rinse Wash and Wax and distilled water. Now I'm gonna spray this on the surface that I'm working on. Now of course I wanna prepare the surface beforehand, do an IPA wash, isopropyl alcohol wash. I want to clay the surface, but I'm going to spray this onto the surface, And now it might be a little bit difficult to see with the liquid where exactly the scratches is if they're super fine, but what I'm gonna do is take my sandpaper and I'm gonna actually wet my sandpaper as well with my Optimum No Rinse solution. Now the reason I have to wet this is because as I sand this clear coat, the clear coat is coming off, and if I'm not careful, the clear coat can actually gunk up my sandpaper. So I wanna have a pretty constant and regular flow of water flowing through so that that clear coat can run off so it's not stopping my sanding process. Now I'm gonna move the liquid around just a little bit so that I can see the scratches a little bit better. But here's the bug etching and the scratch that I really want to attack. And once again, I'm going to take my 2000 grit sandpaper and very, very lightly, I'm actually going to put very, very little pressure, and I'm going to take my sandpaper and I'm going to sand back and forth just like this. Now, a lot of detailers would say that you need a sanding block, which is totally fine if you want to use that. But with experience, I know how much pressure to put, and I know that I can pretty evenly distribute this pressure on this piece of sandpaper. Now, as I'm sanding like this, I want to stop periodically, and I want to actually let my Optimum No Rinse wash away the sanded clear coat, and I might even take my microfiber towel and dry just a little bit so that I can see where I've sanded. Now, this might freak you guys out a little bit because you're going to get a very cloudy, hazy thing that starts to kind of rise up, and that's where the clear coat is being removed. So I'm going to continue and I'm going to show you guys this cloudy haze that I'm talking about. So here you guys can see that yes, the rest of this paint is glossy, but now there's this area right here that I've been wet sanding that is like this cloudy, milky look. And that's what happens when you sand off the clear coat, because that's what I'm doing ultimately, is sanding the clear coat off, is you get this kind of cloudy, hazy thing. But what I want to do right now is look at this haze as I'm sanding, and I want to see, can I still see the scratch that I'm trying to wet sand away? Now I cannot see the bug etching, and I cannot see the scratch on the right side, but I can still see this scratch right up here that was on the left side. I can see kind of the tip of it. So all I'm gonna do is hit this small area just a little bit more and then bring you guys in and show you my next steps. Okay, so now I'm looking at this kind of hazy, faded, like cloudy part that's been wet sanded, and I can no longer see the scratch. Now, of course, you guys saw that I would sand for just a little while, but then I would take my microfiber towel and I would mop up the liquid because I don't want to keep sanding and keep sanding, because once again, you can almost get carried away and it's very dangerous because you'll actually remove too much of the clear coat. And if you remove too much of the clear coat to where you actually get to the paint itself, the colored paint, you cannot go back at that point. You have made permanent damage, and that is not a good idea. Now, this might cause some beginners to freak out, right? They get very scared at this. It looks freaky, it looks scary, it looks like that should not be there. But that is actually exactly what it's supposed to look like. This is where the clear coat has been taken off. It's a matte finish, it's no longer glossy. So now that this has been totally sanded just like it needs to be, I'm gonna take my Griot's Garage 6-inch dual action random orbital polisher, and I'm gonna buff out these sanding marks. Now, one other last point that I wanna make is that you saw that I actually had to sand a whole lot more than just this tiny area with the scratch. I had to sand the entire surrounding area because it takes a leveling out of the clear coat all around the area to actually fix the scratch, not just this tiny, tiny area. You actually have to take an entire kind of panel where the scratch sits and level out the clear coat completely. Now, this is just a heavy cutting yellow pad that I have attached here, and this is Meguiar's M105, which is a heavy cutting, very heavy abrasive polish. I want to use that because this is some pretty serious sanding marks. And now I'm simply gonna wipe off this polish. I'm gonna follow up with Meguiar's 205, which is just a finishing polish. I'm gonna wax it and then show you guys the finished product. So there we go. This is the totally finished product. You can see that there is literally no scratch left whatsoever. In fact, it's just a totally glossy, polished surface. The paint looks really good, and there's absolutely no bug etching whatsoever, and there's no scratch whatsoever. Here is kind of the aerial view of that. Absolutely nothing left, just an awesome polished surface. Everyone, thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to buy any of the tools or products talked about in this video, make sure to just check out the description box below. Once again, my name's Luke Wilson, and if you're new here, then definitely consider subscribing to the Wilson Auto Detailing community, because I come out with daily videos of tips and tricks, not only for the pro detailers, but also for the car enthusiasts on products, tools, and strategies, but also things like communication skills and business skills, all in an effort to help you pro detailers become more profitable and you car enthusiasts become even better detailers with your own cars. So if you're new, definitely consider subscribing. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up if it helped you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or even video ideas or advice, hook that up in the comments section below, because I learn a ton from you guys, and some of the best advice comes from you, the Wilson Auto Detailing community. And everyone, thanks so much for watching once again from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing. Keep working hard, and I will see you guys in the next video.